All right, today we are diving into something really fascinating, an open source project called the Reality Protocol. Now, this isn't your typical theory coming out of a university lab. Instead, it's this collaborative effort, a framework trying to build a unified way of thinking about reality itself. So let's just start with this quote. It's right at the top of their documentation, and it really sets the stage. It's big, it's a little bit mind-bending, and it's a huge hint about the core idea we're going to unpack. This notion that maybe, just maybe, the simplest things and the most complex things are actually one and the same at some fundamental level. And that quote leads us right to the engine of this whole project, what they call the cycle of everything. Okay, so what's the big idea? Well, at its heart, the framework suggests this really elegant cyclical model. The idea is that everything we see and experience, all the complexity, all the stuff in the universe, it all starts from a single point of unity. Then it expands out into what they call multiplicity, and eventually it all cycles back to that original state of oneness.
They have a pretty cool term for this, dimensional emanation. But you can just think of it like reality unfolding, right? It starts from a single point, blossoms into all the dimensions of our incredibly complex world, and then, in this grand cosmic loop, it folds right back into itself.
Now here's where things get really interesting. The project itself actually went on a journey that perfectly mirrors its own philosophy. I mean, it didn't start out all clean and simple like this, not at all.
Just look at this slide for a second. When it started, it was kind of chaotic. They had two different frameworks running at the same time, a whole bunch of documents that were overlapping and confusing, and a web presence that was just a lot. But then, they refined it all down to a single, unified framework, one clear document, and a super simple, focused message. And you have to understand, this cleanup act wasn't just about, getting organized. It was a huge philosophical choice. The creators had this realization: if our core idea is all about simplicity emerging from complexity, then the project itself has to live and breathe that principle. And this led them to these 4 pillars that now guide everything they do. First, consolidation, get rid of redundant ideas. Second, honesty, be upfront about what the framework can't do. Third, clarity, be super clear about the math. And finally, focus, stick to the core insights and nothing else. So let's talk a little more about that idea of honesty, because, well, it's probably the most unique and credible part of this whole thing. To be totally transparent, they came up with this brilliant little labeling system for all the math they use. See that check mark? That means the math is rock solid, proven stuff, like Hilbert spaces. The little wavy equal sign? That means it's an approximation, a useful model. And the diamond? Well, that tells you the idea is purely conceptual, maybe even philosophical, like their unity paradox. This system is so important. Why? Because it lets anyone, you or me, immediately see the difference between established science and the team's more speculative explorations. It builds trust, because they're never overstating their claims. They're telling you exactly where the solid ground ends and the deep water begins. Which brings us to the bottom line, right? After all of this, what does the Reality Protocol actually give us? What are its limits? So here's what it does provide. It gives you a structured model for thinking about reality. It points towards some interesting research directions. It keeps that clear line between fact and speculation. And for anyone who wants to play around with these ideas, there's even a simple Python codebase to experiment with.
But, and this is crucial, the team is very upfront about what this is not. It does not make predictions you can test in a lab. It's not going to lead to new technology or medical treatments. And most importantly, it's not claiming to be a proof of how reality actually works.
So, at the end of the day, its real value is as a tool for thought. Think of it like a sandbox for exploring some of the biggest questions you can possibly ask. It's an organized way to approach these massive ideas without ever pretending it has all the answers.
And so we'll just leave you with this final thought. The project's own journey, from a complex mess to something so simple and elegant, it really does mirror its own central idea. And it makes you wonder, if the universe does operate on some kind of fundamental code, maybe the most profound, most beautiful feature of that code isn't its complexity, but its incredible simplicity.